Welcome back, football fans, to the Fantasy Football Fallen YouTube channel. Week 7 is primed for some great success, and here's my FanDuel lineup for Week 7. Starting off at quarterback, I have Carson Palmer, $8,200 in the Monday night game against Baltimore. They're playing a secondary that isn't very good, and I see the opportunity for Carson Palmer to have a bunch of points at home. I think a monster game is in store for the Arizona Cardinals against the Baltimore Ravens. Next, I have Chris Ivory at running back against the New England Patriots at $7,800. So far, in the last 2 games, Chris Ivory's had 312 total yards and 2 touchdowns. He's trailing only Matt Forte at 507 yards and Devontae Freeman at 505 yards. Forte is on the bye this week, and Freeman is $900 more expensive than Ivory. I think Ivory's going to hit his value, and I think he's a great play this week, unless you want to spend the big money for Freeman. Next, I have Doug Martin at $7,200 playing Washington. Here's a guy who's been flying under the radar the past 2 games he's played. He was unable to reach double digits all season before scoring 22.8 on Carolina and 35.3 on Jacksonville. I think a lot of people might stay away from him because he's been inconsistent this year, but I think he'll continue success this week. Next is a guy that I'm unsure about. I'm about 95% sure he's going to have a great game this week. Stefon Diggs. $5,800 against Detroit. It's unclear if Diggs is taking over for Charles Johnson as a starter, which is what scares me. But so far, Diggs has been taking the first team reps. I don't know if Charles Johnson's been rested because, Diggs has been taking over. I don't know if Charles Johnson's been rested in practice, which changes some things. But I think regardless if Johnson plays, Diggs has been producing of late. He scored double digits in 2 straight weeks with 16.4 points last week. He had 7 receptions for 129 yards last week. The production's there to keep him in as a starter. It just comes down to the coaching decision, and we'll have to play it by ear. Next, I have Brandon Marshall against the Patriots at $8,200. I'm excited for this matchup. I think the Jets and Pats should be an interesting game. So far, Brandon Marshall's hit double digits in every game, which is a huge plus. At $8,200 is very consistent, and I think the Jets will have to air the ball out to keep themselves in the game against the Patriots' high-powered offense. Next, I have Martavis Bryant at $6,900 against Kansas City. Last week, he had his return, and he had 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. He started off the game cold with 8 yards at halftime with Vic playing quarterback. When Landry Jones came in, Bryant caught fire. He tied Brown for targets at 8, and I expect his success to continue this week, and I think no matter who's playing quarterback, he's the way to go. Antonio Gates is my tight end at $5,800 against Oakland. He's off to a hot start with 39.7 points in 2 weeks. If he's sidelined, you can take either Barnes or Kelsey or maybe even Witten. I left $300 just in case he was not able to play due to injury. But if he does play, we're going to see a lot of dominant looks from Antonio Gates against a Raiders defense. It's just terrible against tight ends. I don't know what it is. They can't, no matter what, they just can't cover tight ends. So if Gates plays, he's a no doubt big play this week. Next, I have Stephen Gostkowski at $5,100 as my kicker. He's double digits in 4 of the 5 games he's played. He's been the most consistent kicker, and although he's the most expensive, I think his consistency makes up for it. My defense is the Atlanta Falcons against Tennessee at $4,700. They had a tough matchup last week against the Saints. They only scored 4 points, but I see a bounce-back performance against Tennessee. The Tennessee offense has been struggling lately, and Atlanta feeds off of turnovers. So what comes off of turnovers is the possibility to score defensive touchdowns. It's exactly what we want for a FanDuel defense. That concludes my Week 7 lineup. Follow us on Twitter. Also subscribe to the channel by clicking the link below. With these picks and the addition of Larry Fitzgerald, I was able to make a solid DraftKings lineup as well.